Hey guys, welcome back. So this video is actually part of my Cozy Favorites mini-series that I'm doing. If you haven't already, I urge you to check out the rest of the videos in the series where I'm spotlighting all of my Cozy Favorites. So anyway, today's video we're actually going to be talking about my favorite Cozy series, my top 5, but I have to be honest, like I am in my other videos, it's hard to whittle down a top 5, so we'll just say top 5 for now because this list is definitely revolving and ever changing. So let's go ahead without further ado and dive into which series are my absolute favorites. Okay, so I have to preface this by saying that this list is by no means in any order. It's just my top 5. So starting off, let's talk about the first one, which is probably no surprise to some of you, and that is the Bakeshop Mystery Series by Ellie Alexander. First of all, it's a long-running series. It's still going. Currently, I want to say over 20 books in the series, so if you're like me, and I feel like you are, you love to binge cozies, and this is a perfect one because not only is it long, but you get so much character development throughout the series that it's just so fun, and you become so invested in following along with the characters to essentially see how they grow and evolve. So again, I've mentioned this series before, but for those of you who are new, this one takes place in Ashland, Oregon, and it features our amateur sleuth named Jules, who is currently running a bake shop named Tort. And it's just basically her going about her day with a couple of murders sprinkled in that she has to solve, all while keeping this bakery up and running. Now, one of the reasons why, well, let's be honest, there's more than one reason, right? That's why it's on this list. But one of the reasons why I love this series so much is because of this setting. First of all, Ashland is a real place, which I feel is rare in a lot of cozy mysteries because even though they take place in small towns, often those towns are fictional. But alas, Ashland is not. It is a real place. Better believe it's on my bucket list because of this series alone. But yes, I love the setting in this book, and I think that Ellie Alexander does a wonderful job painting you a picture in terms of what Ashland looks like. You really get a feel, you know it's a Shakespearean town. You know that there is this sulfur fountain that has like a funky taste, but is also like a tourist destination that you have to visit. And you can really imagine Jules' shop amongst all of the other shops within that town. Now, on top of that, the descriptions of the bakery and all of the things that Jules makes, which, side note, Ellie does include recipes in her books. And so I know Courtney over at Courtagonist is currently having a read along in her book club in which she rereads one of the books and then bakes something from that specific book. And so if you're a baker or like want to go even deeper, I urge you to check her series out. But anyway, you will no doubt have a mouth-watering hankering for whatever Jules is whipping up in each of the books. Also, the characters. Now, I adore Jules because she was one of those sleuths where you can really feel like she is a real person, and not only that, but you would want to be friends with her. I know that there are some cozies, or I guess some books in general, in which the main character is just kind of like a vessel in which you can put yourself in their shoes just to kind of live out the story. Sometimes they're obnoxious, sometimes their personalities clash, but Jules isn't like that. You would actually want to be friends with her. I think that she has a very clear head on her shoulders, but at the same time, she leaves room for herself to grow, both, in her craft as well as a person. There are some relationships within this series that grow. And so I know oftentimes there are cozies where you can just kind of dive in and pick up a book because it's very episodic. I don't think you can do that with this one. Now, don't get me wrong. Each murder is solved by the end of the book. But in terms of the relationships between the characters and for you to know who they are, I really think you would get the most out of it if you started from the beginning. And it's just a fun time all around. I think Ellie Alexander has really poured her heart and soul into this series, and she has done some things that I haven't seen in other cozies before. Like, for example, within this series, there is a book that's almost like a flashback to before Jules was born, and you're actually seeing it, you know, it predates her basically. I won't kind of say more than that, but it's just a fun time all around, and definitely a cozy that I recommend to everybody, whether you're new to cozies, whether you're looking for something new and you haven't read it before. This is it. This is definitely it. Okay, so my next favorite, which I swear, guys, I have to put a moratorium on how often I bring this series up because I feel like I bring it up every other video. I definitely brought it up in the video right before this where I talked about my favorite cozy book. But anyway, it's the Meg Langs Love series by Donna Andrews. I actually have a full video dedicated to my love of this series, which I will link, but I will also talk about it here. So the reason that I love this one so much is because of the family element. Again, with cozies, it's rarely the mystery that you get caught up with. Yes, that can also be fun, and there have definitely been some cozies where the murder is like super interesting, but more often than not, it's the secondary stuff that really takes center stage. And in this case, it is Meg and her family. It's set in a small town in Virginia, and her family is very large, and they all kind of live close by to one another. They've all got their hands in the pie, figuratively, in terms of the goings on in the town. So for example, one of her cousins is the town coroner. One of her other cousins is kind of like this really soulful bohemian type. Her grandfather is actually this famous kind of wildlife expert that she finds, because he doesn't actually start off in the beginning of the series, and it's just so good. It's one of the few cozies that I adore in which she has a love interest, but it's not a will they won't they. They actually kind of meet very early on in the series, and you follow their relationship as they get together, get married, and have kids. Don't worry, that's not a spoiler. That's just kind of like a fun fact. And I love it. I love it so much. She's a mom, but at the same time, I think that she juggles motherhood and everything else that she has going, including solving a murder, very well. And hats off to Donna Andrews for being able to write her in that way, because I'm always hesitant to read stories involving moms, because I don't care what they're doing. I'm always going to be wondering, like, how are you balancing that and taking care of the kid? You know, I can't help but wonder about the kid, and that's frankly just because I'm a new mom myself. But anyway, I think it's such a fun series. They've got bird pun titles, which is my favorite. I love a punny cozy mystery title. And it's also a very long running series. I believe like the 34th book or something like that is supposed to come out later this year, which I'm super excited about. But I would highly recommend it as well. Now, I know each cozy kind of fits into a subgenre theme. This one I don't feel fits into a specific theme. Like, it's not a baking cozy, it's not a bookish cozy. It's really just like almost a slice of life small town cozy, if that makes any kind of sense. But it's really funny, and it's really filled with a lot of heart and humor, and yeah, I just love it. Okay, so I realized when making this list, I took a little trip down memory lane. I almost forgot about this series because it's been a while since I read it, but I adore Heather Blake's Wishcraft series. Now, Wishcraft is kind of a play on word for witchcraft, which is super fun. So we're talking themes. This is what I would consider a witchy cozy or a paranormal cozy. But in this one, our amateur sleuth is a witch, but not just your typical witch. One of the reasons why this series is so fun is the spin off of witchcraft, because instead of being able to cast spells like a typical witch, the amateur sleuth's powers comes in that she is able to grant wishes. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a genie to me. You would be right, but the way that it's done and described in the series, it's witchy, okay guys? Just, you gotta trust me on that. And so she's got a business in which she helps people kind of locate things in a way. It's kind of hard to describe thinking back on it, but she essentially uses her powers for this job that she has. And, you know, of course, she's fighting crime, solving mysteries on her downtime as well. There is also a love interest, but again, it's done well. What I'm learning is that for someone like myself who doesn't adore romances in cozies, or it's not my favorite, many of them have them. And that just goes to show just how well written and handled well it is in each of these series. Now, this one too is long-standing, and I was at first sucked in by the fun covers because they're glittery and they're super cute, and it's an older series, and the reason that I bring that up is because I feel like the book covers really speak to the time and like the art style that was back then. And looking at them now, because I had to pull them out of my stash and look at them again, I just have such nostalgia for that series because it was around in a time when just I was still new to cozies, and they were so traditional cozy, you know, like I feel like cozies have really started to evolve and push the boundaries these days. And don't get me wrong, they still feel good and everything like that, but like that time period was like quintessential cozy, which I feel like is why it's one of my favorites. Truly, it's nostalgic trip down memory lane, but I still think that the series holds up. So if paranormal cozies are your thing, definitely check it out. Okay, so the next one we have is Kate Carlisle's Bibliophile mystery series. This was actually, I believe, the first cozy mystery series, like traditional cozy series that I ever read. And it's on this list for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was my first foray into the cozy world. And number two is because it's a bookish cozy. One of my favorite cozy themes is the book cozy, you know, whether it's about books, about a librarian, a book restorer, a bookbinder, an author, anything dealing with books, I'm your girl with them because I love books about books. Coincidentally, I also have another cozy roundup featuring just bookish cozies if you're into that. But yeah, so this was my first cozy and I love it so much. So this one we follow Brooklyn Wainwright, who is a book restorer living in San Francisco. Side note, fun fact, this is one of the cozies that does not take place in a small town, but that's okay because I don't think that the cozy is centered around the small town aspect. I think there are other elements that really make it very cozy. However, I will say when she goes to visit her family up in Dharma, which is kind of like this commune set in Northern California, that could be considered your small town. So the book isn't 100% set there, but for all intents and purposes, there you go. So I love this one for a few reasons. Obviously, the fact that it's bookish. We're dealing with her being a book restorer, which is super fun. I believe she works in a museum, actually doing commission work where she restores and rebinds old books that people bring to her, but then also like artifacts and stuff like that, which is a theme in a lot of the cozies, for example. And so you're getting a lot of those kind of technical specs, which I find interesting, again, because I love books and learning about that kind of stuff. And I think that the author does a really good job incorporating that into the series. And another aspect is the quirkiness of her family. Now, let me kind of explain. So I mentioned previously that she grew up in a commune. Her parents are kind of like hippy dippy. It sounds like it could be cultish. And what I appreciate is that she has addressed this and kind of bashes those misconceptions because her family is nothing but loving. Their leader, again, which sounds cultish, but it's not. He is genuine and he makes multiple appearances in the series, so you can kind of see for yourself. And I just love it overall. It too is a long-standing series, and we follow her, you know, bopping all around the world basically because she goes up to her small town where she grew up. She's, you know, situated in San Fran a lot of the time. She goes overseas, blah, blah, blah. And it's just a fun time to be had. So if you do like bookish cozies like I do, I 100% recommend this series. I also recommend it on audiobook because I think that the narrator does a really good job kind of voicing the actors in which you're able to imagine what Brooklyn looks like. And yeah, I love it so much. Okay, so last one. I gotta be honest, guys, I'm super torn. I feel like I really want to do like a bonus one, even though I'm trying to keep it nice and succinct, top 5. So for my last one, which again, I have more than 5, but I'm just trying to keep it to 5. For my last one, I'm gonna say, I want to say Murder, She Wrote, but I'm not going to say Murder, She Wrote. And instead, I'm going to say the Seaside Cafe Mystery Series by Bree Baker. Now, I have not finished this series yet. I am dragging my feet because it's technically done and it's only 9 books. And I know that it ends in a way to where it's a tearjerker. I'm not emotionally ready for that just yet. But that does not take away from the fact that it's an excellent series. This one is set in a small beach town in which our amateur sleuth runs an iced tea shop, which is super refreshing and charming. I did actually list the first book in the series, Live and Let Chai, in my favorite cozy books video. And this sorry, the series in general is just so whimsical and just pure joy. I don't even know how else to describe it. Now, admittedly, I have listened to these on audio, and I think maybe the narrators play a huge part in that. But I also read the first book, so it's just a good time all around, whether you're reading it, you know, with your eyeballs, or if you're listening to it. It's just really fun, and I love the setting so much. You know, anything that takes place kind of seaside or with a beach automatically paints a picture for me in which I can feel the toes between my sand. That's not right. I can feel the sand between my toes. And it's a perfect beach read, and I know I mentioned that in my last video, and I still stand by that for the series in general, at least the books that I've read so far. I believe the second book was actually one that was part of our Teacups and Murder Cozy Mystery Book Club pick, and I realized in talking about this book with Samantha and just all of you who tuned in how much I love this series. You know, I read the first book and I loved it, and when I go into another book or the sequel, I'm always really hesitant to know, like, oh, did I love the first one as a fluke, or is it really that good? Yes, it's really that good. Don't take my word, you know, also take Courtney's word, also take Christy's word from the Get Cozy podcast. Everyone that I've talked to who've read this series loves it so much. So definitely one that I recommend, and I'm so sad that it's done, but at the same time, at least we get a definitive ending, rather it just kind of like going away into oblivion, ending almost on a cliffhanger, you know? Okay, so there you have it. Those are my top 5 for now. Cozy mysteries series that are my absolute faves. Let me know what you think about this list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What would be on your top 5 series list for cozies? You'll notice, admittedly, there is some overlap between the series that I named and then the specific books that I named in my other video. And to that I say, so what? That just goes to show you just how good the books are, just how good the series are. One of the best things about cozies is just how long they are. So you can hang out with the character and their family or the setting for long periods of time, which is really what draws you in. And to that, I love being in each of these worlds. I can never wait to go back to them, and yeah, I'm just super excited. So let me know if you enjoyed this video. I hope you did. Please like and subscribe if you did, and be sure to check out the other kind of favorites in the series that I'm doing. In the meantime, happy reading, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!